Okay, so going through this is kind of the major bones of the body. This is also the first page of your packet. So I'm going to go through kind of point by point to make sure we hit all the major bones, and then anything that is more specific, I'm making separate videos for those, like the rib cage, the specific bones of the carpals and the tarsals. All of that is separate videos. We're just looking at kind of the big picture, major bones of the body. So we're going to start in the top right. The first one is going to be called the clavicle. Okay, that's commonly known as the collarbone. Next one's going to be scapula. That one is commonly known as the shoulder blade. Okay, next one's going to be sternum. So that's right in the middle of your chest where all the ribs connect, or many of the ribs connect. The next one is going to be called the thoracic vertebrae. Now with those, like I said, that's another one that's in a separate video. It breaks down the whole vertebral column to make sure you have, or you know, each section and all of that stuff. All of that is in a separate video. The next one is a lumbar vertebrae. So that's those bottom 5 vertebrae. Lumbar vertebrae. Next one, okay, in the forearm, there's going to be 2 different bones. One of them is on the thumb side, and one of them is on the pinky side. You'll notice that this one is pointing to the one on the pinky side. Okay, so that is the ulna. The next line is going to be the sacrum. So that is actually technically part of the vertebral column. So all your vertebrae, including the sacrum, and this bottom part, the next part is the coccyx. All of that is part of your vertebrae. When you get into the next one, it's called the pelvis. And the pelvis is actually broken into 3 different parts called the ilium, the ischium, and the pubis, which we'll get into that in a separate video as well. But do know that the pelvis is the whole kind of structure, but then it does have parts to it. So as we continue on, the main long bone in your thigh is the femur. Next one, so this is it's a small bone in your lower leg. It is known as the fibula. Okay, and then when we look at the bottom, it's going to be the tarsal bones, and then the metatarsals. For a better view of the tarsals, metatarsals, and phalanges down here, that is a separate video as well, so you can refer back to those. This is phalanges. Next one's going to be tibia. And then the kneecap is called the patella. Then you're going to hear phalanges again. So the phalanges are actually all the bones in your toes and fingers are collectively called phalanges. Next one is going to be metacarpals. Then the bones of the wrist are called the carpals. Now we're back to the forearm. So the ulna is on the pinky side. The radius, which is the next one, is going to be on the thumb side. Okay, so radius always on the thumb side. Next one is going to be the ribs. Okay, there is a separate video for the ribs and the thoracic cage, that whole area. So please refer back to that so you can see the distinctions between the ribs. Now we're on the bone that makes the upper arm. Okay, so this whole section here, there's one bone. That bone is called the humerus. Then the next one, okay, I'm going to write off kind of to the side. It's going to be the cervical vertebrae. Okay, cervical vertebrae. So that's the top 7 vertebrae. That category is called the cervical vertebrae. Then the next one is going to be the mandible. And the last one is going to be the cranium. So that's kind of a word for the whole skull. Now, with the skull bones and the facial bones, okay, or the cranial and facial bones, all of that is a separate video as well. So here's the whole paper filled out. But like I said, do go back and watch the specific videos because there's things I point out in there that you're not able to see on here. But this is page 1 of your packet in its entirety.